is Haley Wolford, and I did my project over the early exposure to domestic violence and its effects on the development of problem behaviors in young adults. So domestic violence has an effect on not just the partners in a household, but also their children. Early experiences can also play a role in children and young adults developing not only mental health and behavioral issues, but also influencing their own relationships in adulthood. Early exposure to domestic violence can also increase the rate of externalizing and internalizing their problems in unhealthy ways. The participants in this study were all found through email and web address, also on social media. The goal of this study was to find the relationship between early exposure to domestic violence and the development of problem behaviors in young adults. This study focused on the impact of early exposure to domestic violence and the development of problem behaviors in young adults. The questionnaire and the effects that were used in this study were categorized into 3 subsets. This was behavioral, social, and emotional. They were also started with some demographic questions. I had majority of white and or Black or African American participants, and a majority of the participants, 76.6% of the participants in my study were female and 23.4% were male. Over here in the results section, the first figure you see on my poster, it shows the relationship between the early exposure to domestic violence and the social effects. It is just enough to be considered significant. The second figure that I had come up with shows the relationship between the early exposure to domestic violence and the development of emotional problem behaviors. This is also very significant. There's very little leeway between the experience itself and the effects that it had afterwards. In summary, it was found that in all 3 subsets of categories, the relationship between early exposure to domestic violence and developing problem behaviors was very significant. The effects were found in all 3 subsets of categories, with emotional and social problem behaviors having similar results in those who were surveyed. The results also showed that there was an existent and significant relationship between early exposure and the development of problem behaviors in general. Differences have also been established in the actions of children who have experienced and those who have not experienced early exposure that have both short-term and long-term effects, and these influence relationships with friends, peers, dating relations, and prospective partners. This also creates a consistent pattern of responses that accord and go along with their own experiences as a child. The findings of this study and the research reinforce the idea that early experiences play a large factor in behaviors, both short-term and long-term. It also helps create a better understanding and awareness around the topic of domestic violence and its effects not only on the people within the household, but their children.